Sonic was once simple. Blue Hedgehog that runs around, that went on for about 26 years and no one batted an eye. Then suddenly this game came out and ruined the franchise with this one line.
You're that Sonic from another dimension, aren't you?
And now we are in this mess. The timeline split concept is one of many in a line of confusing concepts that lack clarification or elaboration that spark countless debate and war among Sonic fans. 2 worlds? So just another Tuesday then. So let me build up some backstory here. Sonic Generations came out for the 20th anniversary and defined the difference between classic Sonic and modern Sonic, because before then, nobody seemed to notice he looked different in the 90s, before it was pointed out. I mean, they made a game called Sonic 4 that uses the modern design. In Sonic Generations, Sonic meets his past self and they team up. And of course, everybody had to nitpick this to death. Design elements such as classic Sonic having black eyes and modern Sonic having green irises when he grows up, and completely missed the point that having classic Sonic and modern Sonic be different was to show how much the series had changed over the years since the beginning, and how Sonic had a different design back in the 90s, because that's what he looked like back then. But of course everyone took it literally. Hey, didn't Mickey Mouse do, like, the same thing? Anyway, getting sidetracked. In Generations, classic versions of Sonic and Tails go back to the past and all is well, until 2017's Sonic Mania and Forces brought back classic Sonic for his own new adventure, and then cross over to the modern story for some reason, which, if you ask me, kind of makes Generations less special. But the real chaos began with this one line.
That Sonic from another dimension, aren't you?
What the fuck?
Oh boy. So in Sonic Forces, the characters refer to classic Sonic as being from another dimension, which is inconsistent to Sonic Generations, where he is from the past. So from this, the fandom generated a theory called the split timeline. One of the cool things about fandoms in general is how they try to fill gaps in the source material with theories and headcanons, leading to some pretty cool ideas that sometimes end up being true later on. However, when it just needs to fill a simple gap between point A and point B, we instead get an absolute roller coaster going in every direction possible, then converging back again just to justify an explanation that didn't need to be this elaborate. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. The way it goes is that after Sonic and Tails return to the past after Sonic Generations, their knowledge of the future changes history, which leads to Sonic Mania and any future potential classic games, meaning that classic Sonic in Forces is indeed from another dimension. And in a Q&A, Iizuka confirmed it, so there you have it. This is what a large portion of the fandom have come to accept as the canon, and continue to insist to others that this is indeed the case. There is so many things wrong with that. First of all, it astounds me how many people miss this, but timelines and dimensions are not the same thing. A timeline is a linear progression of events, and in many forms of fiction, traveling and altering said events create an alternate path in time where things play out differently, where depending on the change and how impactful it is can result in something as small as gravity being called mavity, or an entire different history altering the world as we know it, rooting from that one point in time where things were changed. Different writers go with different rules on how it all works, but the general concept remains, whether it be Dragon Ball Z or Back to the Future. A dimension, or sometimes referred to as another universe or reality, can be a wide variety of things depending on the story in question, but usually refers to a different realm or land, different and disconnected from our own. It could be entirely unique to itself, or it may be parallel to our own, or be very similar with various differences. Say for instance, Rick and Morty and Spider-Verse have characters travel to other universes that are part of an infinite multiverse, where characters go to worlds and meet counterparts of themselves where they were a pig or a shrimp, and sometimes other dimensions may refer to another place not in your own, like the Dark Dimension in Doctor Strange, or the Null Void in Ben 10, or Narnia, or Stranger Things' Upside Down, or the Distortion World from Pokemon Platinum, or even from the Sonic series itself, the Soul Dimension, the Special Stages, Null Space, the White Void outside of time and space. Wow, the series we're talking about has a lot of examples on this. And of course, since both concepts have allowed for stories to use the same trope of a world you know but something is different, or history has developed a different path, I believe that is why some people mix the two, and it would seem that's what's happened in Sonic Forces. We would not be having this discussion if any bit of dialogue referring to classic Sonic being from another dimension was replaced with him being from the past, as it falls in line with Sonic Generations. Tails recognizes classic Sonic, they met in Sonic Generations. Tails has never met a Sonic from another dimension, which is why recognizing classic Sonic and addressing him as being from another dimension makes no sense. With even concerned comments from staff internally at Sega, such as Aaron Weber, who was essentially saying the same thing I've just said. I'm not sure if the story for Forces was clearly not a priority and the writers were just doing their job, writing a story for a Sonic game with an identity crisis in a confusing era of the series where nobody cared about or was keeping track of continuity, and therefore time travel and dimension travel are used interchangeably. I must note that the line "from another dimension" was the English localization, and the original Japanese version says "from another world," which isn't much better. And even Eggman still says "from another dimension," so this isn't a translation error. And even Tails Tube goes out of its way to clarify classic Sonic is indeed the same Sonic as present-day Sonic. So classic Sonic is indeed not from another dimension, but this doesn't disprove the timeline split after generations, right? Well, no, there's no real evidence anything actually changed, and classic Sonic's knowledge of the future is extensive as knowing what his friends will look like and a few select locations he travels to. Also, that an air boost looks super cool. Thankfully, he didn't see it when it looked like the devs decided to remove the boost aura. And I don't understand the logic that the existence of Mania and Superstars means that it has to be another timeline. I mean, there's plenty of time between Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure since they are kids in one and teenagers in the other. And I mean, even if there are new classic Sonic Adventures, there's no reason they can't take place between those games, and even so, going by the logic of this theory, wouldn't the characters grow into teens anyway, and what's to stop the events of Sonic Adventure happening? And all the events of the series would simply just play out the same way it always has. Also, this one is kind of important. Azuka never confirmed it. During the Sonic Q&A panel at SXSW 2018, Takashi Iizuka was asked, quote, "Is the classic Sonic from Sonic Generations the same classic Sonic from Sonic Mania and Forces?" To which he said, "Yes, correct." Well, duh! Of course it's the same classic Sonic! Why would there be more? Oh yeah, because we know Sonic Generations classic Sonic is from the past, and in Forces and Mania, we are told he's from another dimension. No wonder fans thought this was the confirmation of their theory. And to add on top of that, in 2023 with the release of Sonic Superstars, Iizuka says, quote, "The classic Sonic series began with Sonic 1 in 1991, and Sonic Adventure marks the switch to the modern series in 1998. So in terms of the Sonic timeline, Sonic Superstars occurs after Sonic Mania and before Sonic Adventure. Whenever we develop a new game, we will always make sure the story fits in with the lore. Every mistake you have ever made is redeemed in my eyes. I love you." Yep, both Sonic Mania and Sonic Superstars are canon to the existing modern Sonic timeline, just a linear progression of events. No more branching timeline mumbo-jumbo to keep track of. So at the end of the day, just remember in the late 2010s, they simply did not care. Today, they are trying their best to make the world of Sonic the Hedgehog consistent and coherent. Because even if each game's story is made in the context of that game itself, the natural world building happened over time, and it's only natural we want it to make sense. Now, if you want a confusing split timeline that is canon but still ties things together, look no further than Sonic 06. This may end up being a video in of itself. But anyway, stay tuned, and stay awesome.